You know, there's something unique about the number 3. It seems like whenever two people get together, it never gets anywhere, but when sometimes the third force comes in, the third influence, another person comes into the scene, all of a sudden we got some action, right? Number 3, the power of 3. I want you to think about the law of 3 every time you get stuck, all right? By the way, 3 also happens to be the number of contestants we have here tonight on WOWBIZ Super Quiz. WOWBIZ Super Quiz is a brand new fusion of edutainment, training, corporate information, and also personal branding. So you're seeing something very new times 3 right here tonight. I'm Lynn Hinderrocker, and this is WOWBIZ Super Quiz. Thanks for being here. What do you think we should do? Should we go talk to the contestants? 3 contestants? What do you think? All right, let's do it, shall we? All right, here we are. Thanks for coming. Let's come over here, and thank you for being here. Good to see you guys. Fantastic. 3 great men here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. My name is Luke Armstrong, and I work at Don't Panic Labs, and I started a couple companies. One is called Cali Commons, which is a community, a creative community, a space for artists and
beautiful. It's a beautiful place where all kinds of art is posted.
Totally.
That's right. So that's your second. Now let's go on and hear the third.
Yep. So I also started a company called Texty Press, which does text-initiated smartphone tours.
And I want to talk to you about this a little bit later on. I think this is fascinating. That's an emerging media. It's extremely important. They get like 90% opens, don't they, on the texting side?
Yep, totally.
And absolutely. So you're a smart guy to be associated with that. Thank you for being here, Luke Armstrong. You're a special kind of guy because the technology and the artistry come together, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Let's talk to our next guy. Tell us who you are and what you're doing here.
Hi, I'm Jason Thomas. I practice art, entertainment, and small business law here in Omaha. And this summer I worked with Amplify Arts to set up their Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts program. So if somebody couldn't afford an attorney like me, we can set them up with some pro bono legal assistance so they get their arts-related legal matter handled.
Fantastic. Now, so you're serving artists and the art community and giving them support so they can create their incredible output and not have it be stolen or that people will pay for it and so on. Am I on the right track?
That's a lot of it. It's a lot of business advice. There's so much in the entertainment world that's wrapped up into contracts, and those contracts are very specialized.
Absolutely. Jason, thank you for being here. I've met you a long time ago, and I've always wanted you to have you on the show, so it's a real pleasure to have you here. Thank you again. Now I've got a third guy. I've been with him off and on for a number of years now, and every time I cut back in touch with him or touch base with him, he's done something extraordinary. So please welcome this friend. Go ahead.
I appreciate that, Lynn. David Scott, and I'm at the Embassy Suites, and this may sound confusing, the Courtyard by Marriott in La Vista.
Yes.
Those are 2 competing brands externally, but we are under one management
And you
company.
work with both of them.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
now go on and tell us a little bit about your career. And of course, La Vista, Nebraska is a rapidly growing community just off Interstate I-80 in Nebraska.
Very good point. And I'm from Australia originally. People need to know that up front because they won't listen to the content of what I'm talking about. Right. I used to send people overseas out of Australia because there's nothing much in the middle. They go on,
Okay.
to go on a trip. So I was on outbound tourism, worked in hotels, met my wife, and she was working for Radisson, and suddenly I'm back here in Omaha.
So you have a hotel background all the way,
That's
all the way
that's
down the line.
briefest.
So you help groups in particular book big conventions.
Anyone who's got an idea that might need a room or a sleeping space or a meeting space, I should say, then we're an option.
You're being too modest. I know you book some incredible events. I've been to a few of them. They're always so well executed. And that happens to be the property you're at, I think the number 1 or 2 property within its brand family in the entire United States. Isn't that true?
We've won a few awards, but we've been eclipsed since those times. But yes, we're still doing a good job, and that's all about the team.
Well,
yes.
It's a pleasure to have you here, David Scott. So I
Thank
got
you.
3 brilliant guys, very different, all fantastic, and that's right. Let's applaud everybody right here, shall we? Make sure everybody knows who's who, and thank you so much for getting on board with us here. We're going to ask them very interesting questions, and I appreciate it if you tune in and stick with us all the way through the show. I promise you we're going to have an interesting evening tonight. And by the way, this is all brought to you, I'm sure everybody knows this by now. We'll talk about it again soon, but Curzon Promotional Graphics in the Omaha, Nebraska area. Curzon Promotional Graphics. Keep that in mind. We'll talk about that again. All right, now, Let me ask you a question, gentlemen. Now, you're going to be able to raise your hand quickly. This is a speed thing, okay? You understand what I'm saying? So the person who raises his hand first will be called upon first. There is a competitive dimension to what we're doing here, but of course, learning is the key idea. But first of all, let's pretend that you are a salesperson for an organization. We've all done this kind of thing before. You're being asked to prospect on the phone, make calls. Maybe you don't have time to do it every single day, all the time. What time of the day and what day of the week are the very best to make a cold prospecting phone call? Whoever holds their hand up first gets the opportunity to speak. David Scott.
That's a loaded question. You said cold prospecting call.
Yeah.
The first part is you need to do your homework, do your research, have
Yes.
a reason for calling.
Oh yeah, all that. But let's
place.
get to the day and the time.
In my world, if I'm calling somebody and it's a business to business,
Yes.
obviously the business needs to be open. So that's a good start. But I find AM Monday to Friday, and not AM 7:30, AM 9:30, so they've
Okay.
had time to check in.
Okay.
Those first 2 hours of the morning.
So you say any Monday through Friday around 9:30 would be your
9:30 to
answer.
10:30, 11 o'clock. Yes.
All right, Jason, what would be your take on this particular one? Let's hear your input on this particular question. When during the week, what day and what time would you suggest if you wanted to optimize the chances of actually reaching somebody and having a conversation?
Well, I'm a lawyer, so I can't give you a straight answer. And really what it comes down to it is what I like to look at is I want to know when a prospective client
Yes.
is going to expect that phone call.
Well, that's common sense. That's a good point.
So
You've been very analytically an attorney here.
Right, so then it comes to the marketing and all that. The worst thing in the world is when somebody calls me 9 o'clock at night or sometime when I'm expecting a phone call from somebody else. It's
Yeah.
not business.
Sure.
So I guess just generally business hours.
Okay, business hours, any certain time or day, just Monday through Friday.
Not Monday, not Friday.
Okay, pick a day. Pick a day. I'm going to invite
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
We'll do Tuesdays. We'll
Anytime,
do Tuesdays
okay.
at 10.
All right, I got to tell you,
All right.
Luke, you got an open shot here, man. This is your opportunity to wheel it in. What would you guess the best day of the week, the best time of the day to make a phone call if you're going to try to connect with somebody you probably don't know?
So I would say afternoon on a Thursday.
Very close. Afternoon on a Wednesday from 4 to 5 on Wednesday is actually scientifically the best time of the week to make a phone call to a stranger. Thank you, sir. Good job. Good job for Luke Armstrong, everybody, right here. You got lucky, baby. You got lucky. I know you did. But, you know, these guys were wide open, so why not, right? All right, so here we go again. Now, this is an interesting thing. What percentage, you know, when you're trying to get a hold of somebody, and we're back to a sales concept here, trying to get a hold of somebody, usually we'll use email. We'll send somebody an email and, you know, maybe then call with a phone call right after that. That's very common. What percentage of the emails do prospects think are irrelevant? Irrelevant. Obviously, you don't want to send an email to somebody that's completely off the wall. They're not going to read it. What percentage of a prospect we're here right now, somebody you'd like to sell your services to, right? And you said, hey, I heard this, blah, 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 let's talk. What percentage of the time is that email irrelevant? Hello? David.
Again, it's a loaded question.
Yes.
It depends on what you define as a prospect. So from my world, again, if I have an
It's
understanding
cold
of-
now. It's cold. You've never talked to them before, but there's somebody you'd like to have as a customer.
So if they don't know who I am and where I'm coming from, then I'm going to go with the 99%.
99%, okay. Luke, what would you say, my friend?
I think that's probably a little high, but not too far off. I'd say 85%. maybe?
85%? Irrelevant now.
Yeah, irrelevant.
You know, you're despairing right now because all the salespeople that are watching this show are going, oh, I really hope they're wrong because I do this all the time. Jason, you have a suggestion? What number, what percentage of the time would the prospect say, that's irrelevant, I'm not even going to read it or respond to that person?
We'll say 85%.
85%.
We'll play this game show.
Okay. Well, you know, you could have gone down just 1% and actually won this particular thing because he did say 85. Actually, the number is 59%. 59% of the emails that we send out to people and are hoping that they'll open up and say, hey, this is interesting, I should talk to this guy. 59% of the time we're wrong, right? We're off base and we don't have any basis for continued dialogue. All right? Interesting, right? It's an interesting number. All right, let's talk about kind of an open-ended thing. As I look at my phone here, we have a different approach right now. There's a service out there right now that's very successful called Thankster. I don't know if you've heard about this. I had not heard about this. What you can do with them is that, we all know that handwritten notes, when you've met with somebody and you enjoy their chat, and maybe they're a client or a prospect or whatever, we should all go back to our desk and write them a little handwritten note. A lot of us don't do that. We just don't have the time. I don't get around to it. So this is a service that uses automatic writing. So you have it handwritten that looks like your handwriting, and they customize it and personalize it, and you just send them the name, and they do the whole deal. They mail it to them with a stamp, and it looks like a fantastic handwritten note from you, thanking them for their recent conversation. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Pretty cool, right? That's today, right? That's where we're at. Now, let's assume that you like the technology, you think it's a pretty cool idea, you see the value and so on. How could you personally come up with a new idea, a new service? I'm going to come to you first, Luke. About and utilize this technology or something similar. How could you leverage the fact that these guys are doing this with that kind of artificial intelligence and so on, customization and so on, and come up with a new service? I'd like to hear your rendition of that. What would you do?
Sure. Maybe there's a prospecting letter that would work similarly, where you met somebody at a open coffee or something like that, and you want to follow up with them. It's not exactly a thanks note, but it is a follow-up and potentially a sales opportunity.
So you would change the focus of the message slightly and say, let's get together, rather than thanks for chatting, and use it as a prospecting tool.
Yep.
Right, which might make networking more productive or more efficient if you're out bopping around town. And,
Yep.
Right, okay, I got that. I think that's an incremental tweak on the existing stuff. Jason, what ideas, what if you were really unleashed, no restraints, as much money as in the world as you needed, and somebody said, we think this is really cool technology. Can you think of something else we could do with that and make a fortune? Got any ideas, Jason?
Oh, me? I'm the lawyer. I'm not the idea man.
Well,
it's my job to take the idea, take someone's idea and make the idea work. Mm-hmm. So if somebody came and Luke said, hey, I have this great idea, let's do this, fantastic, I'll see what we need to do. If he over here, he comes up with the next great idea, and I'm sure he has it, then I got that. I think I would go incrementally like Luke did. I would have it something, you don't want it too personal, not like, oh man, grandma died, I'm so sorry, but something maybe along the lines of like, say, in medicine, the doctor has a diagnosis, something like that. He's going to pull the patient aside and actually tell him what's going on. Maybe the follow-up should be something that looks handwritten.
I think that's brilliant because, as a matter of fact, customers are moving away from traditional doctors' offices and moving to retail clinics. There's a real migration away from traditional or conventional visit to the local doctor. So some little personal tweak like that from your doctor, that could actually build in some loyalty and some brand preference. I think that's actually a wonderful idea. I was expecting you to say, well, I'll give them a little bit of free legal advice, handwritten. And, but no, you missed that opportunity, dude. No, David, how would you leverage and optimize
legal
this
advice?
Technology? Huh?
Legal advice is not free.
Yeah,
I thought you knew that already.
That's true.
I think the first thing, when I think of when I've received these in the mail and it tricks me and I open it up and I go, oh, that's not real. It undermines the validity.
So you think it's kind of hokey?
No, not at all, not at all. So I think you've got to find that place where it's okay that they know it's not a real signature. So I'm prospecting, and it gets in the door, but it's still going to trick me, and I'm going to go, no, I don't like that. That's not what I'm looking for.
I got an idea for you, David.
Shoot it back at me.
What if it had love notes or little romantic notes for your spouse that you never have time to get around and pen? And you get to choose the note, obviously, but some little thing, some little romantic thing, thinking of you today, blah, blah, blah. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a movie about that where
I think there is, but not the automated writing thing. That's an awesome idea, man. Huh?
It gets called out for it 10 years
later. I can
later.
see you doing that. You would take advantage of that. All right.
Just don't tell my wife.
I think Luke has got to get the win on this particular one. He came up with it. Good job. Good job. All right. Here we go. Let's keep going. Let's keep thinking. We got something else right now that I know you're going to find interesting. Okay. Now let's pretend that you are kind of running a largish corporation. A lot of people watching this show maybe fit into this. And there's a productivity issue. You know, the employees don't seem that motivated. They're hanging out. They're not really kicking out work. Don't see a lot of passion in the halls or in the cubes. Everybody relate to where I'm at right now? Mm-hmm. Right. So you're brought in, and maybe the boss's boss, whatever, says, hey, I want you to come up with a way to boost productivity around here, all right? Let's come up with something that kind of really gets people going, and your response is, okay, hey, I'll try. And he says, here's the 3 things I've been thinking about, right? And one of them is to have some kind of a competition, some kind of an initiative internally, and it lasts a certain period of time, and they have to do this and do that or whatever, and then whoever wins gets a trophy and maybe a fancy meal out with their spouse or something like that, some kind of an extrinsic or external reward. Everybody with me so far? All right, now here's the second one, a little more clever. So here's the award. If you win the competition, you get the opportunity to speak for half an hour in front of the management team or maybe the board of directors. You get to stand up in front of all of them and tell them what the company should think about doing, how they could improve, etc. That's a very different kind of a reward. All right? Here's the third one. The third one's more of an internal thing where you said, look, if you win the competition, and by the way, we're going to change the game right here. Everybody in the office is going to be allowed to rewrite their job description. Rewrite their job description and go forward creating value as best they can, based upon their personal interpretation of the market and how they could do things much better. More entrepreneurial, essentially. All right? 3 very interesting options. All right? So let's go through the group here and see which you think would be the most effective. What would you recommend to the boss? We'll start with you, David Scott.
You know that it's not a democracy in an office, so the latter kind of scares many people, because who knows what operations is going to come up with. I'm in sales, and the people on the ops side are going to say, what are those sales people going to come up with?
I'm telling you that a lot of people believe, I think, that if the job description were different and allowed them to do this and that, they'd be happier and more productive. But this is your show, so you got to respond to one of those 3 options.
The key here is what is going to engage the staff.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think, like, know your audience, understand what works for them.
Yes.
So maybe the option is to go to the staff and find out from them which would work for them.
That's not one of your options right now. You have 3 choices. Give away a trophy and tickets to a dinner. Give them a chance to speak to the board of directors. Give them a chance to rewrite the job description.
Well, the first one depends on how much has been done in the past. If they keep failing and they just want to try it again, obviously it needs to be rebooted no matter what it is. The middle one I think is going to scare a lot of them. Maybe 1 or 2 might be interested because they want to elevate and promote themselves. So the third one has my interest.
Third one has your interest. That's kind of the radical one. That's very interesting. Luke, what do you think about those 3 options? I'm going to place a side bet on which one you're going to prefer, but I'm very interested in your response to this.
I think the third one also.
Rewrite the job description.
Rewrite the job description.
Okay.
I think it gives people a sense of autonomy and a sense of importance in the company. And if you're struggling with basically how people feel at their work, then I don't think the competition is going to satisfy that one.
Yeah. Okay, so you like that third one. Rewrite the job description. You don't think it'd be chaotic with different people doing a bunch of different things, eh?
Yeah, I think that it could cause some problems with everyone rewriting their jobs, but definitely if you dialed it back to the winner gets to write their own job description, I think that would probably be
okay, cool. Very interesting. I appreciate the adjustment. Jason, what do you think of those 3 choices? The trophy and the meal, chance to speak to the management team, or just redo your job description and enjoy that. That's an intrinsic reward as opposed to an extrinsic award.
Now, I know in some companies, C is already being done. Maybe not at the company level, but people are given a chance if they, meet certain thresholds to rewrite their job description. But I don't see that as being good for every company, and I definitely don't see it being something beneficial if, like, the entire company were allowed to do it. A sounds nice. I like a steak dinner. That's good. But I don't know. There's a whole lot there. However, talking before the board or talking before management, that's something that not only might help you at that company, but that's something that's going to go on your resume, your CV. That's a job booster in ways that A is not, and C might just be a little too jackhammer for.
So your recommendation is number 2. Am I hearing you?
We're going to go 2.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's give everybody a round of applause. Everybody thought about this. I thought that was an outstanding idea. Both of you, you're all thinking, which I really appreciate. Jason, I think you won this one because you've really thought it through. And frankly, I think you blended. I'm very concerned about extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. The whole bit with the trophy and all that, the extra cash bonus or eating out, that's okay, but it's been done and it kind of wears off. It doesn't stick with you a long time. The rewrite the job description is a very cool idea. I'm a little bit afraid that it might be a little chaotic and a little tough to integrate it back into the stream. But assuming that you want to get ahead in your career, I think number 2 is a winner. So Jason, you get this one, man. You're on top of this one. Thank you so very much on that one, guys. All right, let's move towards a new idea right here. And I want you, this is philosophical, all right? Philosophical. You know, technology is kind of redesigning the entire world. I'm sure you know all about that. So we're talking about artificial intelligence and robotics and predictive data analysis and all this kind of stuff, you know, and we're getting sucked into all of it. We love it. We don't want to talk about it, but the bottom line is that human beings as a species are becoming more and more isolated from each other. I'm sure you've heard this before. Loneliness is at an epic high, you know. So there's something kind of weird about that, right? So let's say, for instance, somebody grabbed you and said, I want you to run my company. It's a big company with a lot of technology, a lot of IT guys around, a lot of things you can do. But you have to choose one of those 2 themes. You either have to choose, we're going to leverage and optimize and deepen our technology roots, or you're going to say, we're going to be more human, more giving, more graceful, more self-aware, more emotionally intelligent. You have to choose one of those 2 things to change the culture and change the future of the company. It's an interesting question. Let's start with David Scott, okay?
That's an easy answer. I work in hospitality, so I got to go people.
Okay.
I got to connect.
I should have
find
known.
the purpose.
I should have known you'd go that way. All right, you're a heart over science kind of guy. All right, cool. How about you, Luke?
If I have to choose one strictly, I also would choose the human-centric path, but I think that technology can enable human-centric behavior. It's just that people are still adjusting to the last 100 years of progress.
Is that right?
I think so.
So you think we're going through kind of a minor ripple of kind of a minor adjustment as we have this shock of technology hitting us? And
lots of people in, lots of people out. That's part of the problem. They're not all participating in the same system, and this puts pressure on the people who are in the system.
I love it. I think it's a very interesting question. A lot of people in a lot of interesting places are discussing this very thing. Jason, where are you going to go on this incredible decision? You're going to steer the company, the culture, one way or another, heavier into technology or heavier into recapturing the human spirit?
Well, similarly, my business is people. If you're going to change the culture, you're going to want to change morale, you're going to want to change, culture is people. If you're talking about systems, if you're talking about improving productivity, et cetera, which is great, and it's something every executive should be striving for, that's going to be maybe technology, shoring up accounts, et cetera, et cetera. If you want happy workers, if you want like connectivity, if you want a culture that's going to last, and this is especially true on, a lot of corporations on the West Coast in particular, you move more to people-centric.
Yeah. David, you started the round. I'm going to ask you one more time. What would be the one thing that you would say if you're standing in front of everybody, they're all waiting, they want to make more money next year, they know that technology is a strong thing of ours, everybody's talking about it, it's on the front page. What would you say to convince the people, your employees, that we're going to elevate the human spirit and pay more attention to the emotional dimension of our existence here?
I'll go this as a philosophical approach, but I got to put it back to the heart. I got to say, talk to the person next to you, get to know that person next to you, understand what they're looking for.
Relationships.
It's all about relationships and connectivity and understanding what your needs are as well as your partners, your colleagues.
Excellent.
That's what it's
Excellent.
about.
Well, I think all three of you did an outstanding job. I'm going to give David this one because he started off, and it's a very tough question to make. There are a lot of people, by the way, that are watching the show right now that would say, wrong, you're all wrong, you're all trying to act real scoochie-woochie, but the bottom line is technology is going to win, get out of the way. There are people right now that are saying that to all four of us at this moment. But that's okay, we'll be courageous. That's part of the paradigm that we just have been discussing right here. I want to talk about paradigm. I want to talk about Curzon Promotional Graphics, okay? They're the sponsor for this show. They're the people that stuck their neck out all the way. When I came to them, the show didn't exist, the backdrop didn't exist, nobody even believed this would happen. And I said, I want to do something different, and that's why I'm talking to this particular company, Curzon Promotional Graphics. And I said, you've been around over 30 years, you've seen things come and go, you understand the importance of visuals. And they said, yeah, that's our thing. You understand. I said, here's the cool thing. You're both creative and production oriented. Those are two, it's almost like the left brain and the right brain of the human being, right? And I said this to them literally. And they said, well, you got us nailed. That's pretty cool. Yeah, we believe in that. They said, how are you going to use, if we decide to give you some support and assistance on this show, what are you going to do with it? I said, well, I happen to have, since I met Luke Armstrong, I've happened to have gotten into the painting world. Right? And I actually do some painting, and I enjoy it greatly, and I said I'd like to put my painting and have that be the backdrop of the particular show. They said, oh, well, let me see it. So I showed it to my phone, and they said, oh, okay, we can do this, we can pull this together. So that's what you see right behind you right now. That's my work. And of course, we have the local here, the logo and everything else. But Curzon Promotional Graphics is creative and production oriented. So if you're watching the show right now, please remember it's critical that you give them a call and say, let's talk, right? Let's see what you have to say, because I know that you have a creative dimension and you can make things happen. Make things happen. All right, I'm going to ask you one more thing as we wrap up our show here. We've only got a minute or two. What would be the one word that you would use from a branding, all right, a branding or positioning, descriptive thing of this particular show? This is an unusual program. It's never been done before. So I want your gut reaction. I don't want you to overthink this. What would be the one word that you would use, Luke, as we sign off here to describe WOWBIZ Super Quiz? And what would you suggest we label it as?
That's a hard question.
I put you on the spot there, didn't I?
I would say that WOWBIZ Super Quiz is engaging?
Engaging, not a bad word. I think we'd take that. Jason, what would be the word that you would use to describe this show, quickly?
Collaborative.
Collaborative, I like that. Engaging and collaborative, those are two really good things in the world of business today. David Scott, from Embassy Suites in La Vista, Nebraska, what word would you use to describe this experience, my friend?
I was going to go genuine.
Genuine, I like that. This is, the authentic generation that we're trying to focus on, right? No corporate BS here, right? All right, so I thank you so much for being here with me. My name is Lynn Hinderacher. This is WOWBIZ Super Quiz. We're doing something special. We're doing something unique. Don't miss us. We're on the web. We're on local TV on Cox, and I look forward to seeing you again. We're going to do this again. It's going to get better every single time. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.